There's a quiet kind of power that doesn't announce itself. It doesn't shout, doesn't seek validation, doesn't beg to be seen. It simply exists and everyone feels it. You've met someone like that before. They walk into a room and everything shifts, not because they're the loudest, but because they don't need to prove anything. Their presence alone rearranges the atmosphere. People turn toward them instinctively, not out of curiosity, but out of gravity. That's seduction in its purest form. Not a trick, not a performance, but an aura built from within, from the slow, deliberate mastery of one's mind, emotions, and perception. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this. He wrote not for the virtuous, but for the ambitious, those who wanted to understand how the world truly works beneath the polite illusion. He saw what most people refuse to admit, that attraction, respect, and power all come from the same source: control. Control over yourself, your image, and the emotions of others. And here's the cruel truth. The one who can control these things doesn't chase approval, they shape it. Seduction isn't about charm. Charm is surface level, the perfume sprayed over insecurity. Real seduction begins with the absence of need, because neediness is repulsion in disguise. People feel it in your tone, in your eyes, in the way you fill silence with nervous words. You think you're connecting, but what you're really doing is leaking power. Machiavelli would say, never let them see you depend. Dependence breeds pity, and pity is the death of attraction. To seduce someone, anyone, you must first detach from the outcome. That's the paradox. The less you care whether they want you, the more they will. Think about it. Every time you've been obsessed with someone, unable to sleep, constantly checking your phone, analyzing every word, what you were really addicted to wasn't them, but the feeling of lack. The idea that they possessed something you didn't. That emotional imbalance is the foundation of control. The moment you want something too much, you hand over your power. And in the eyes of the world, the one who needs less always dominates the one who needs more. So if you want to seduce anyone, whether in love, business, or influence, you must first rewire your relationship with desire itself. Don't chase, don't crave, don't overvalue. Observe, study. Position yourself as the prize, and others will naturally orient around you. Confidence isn't about convincing yourself you're enough. It's realizing you never needed to prove it in the first place. Machiavelli's brilliance was in his cold understanding of human nature. He knew that people are predictable. They respond to power, to mystery, to certainty, because most of them don't have it. They live in constant doubt, chasing validation from the world like starving dogs circling scraps. When you stop chasing, you separate yourself from the herd. And the moment you separate yourself, the world begins to chase you. Here's the thing about seduction. It's not about appearance, it's about perception. A powerful person could be average in looks but magnetic in energy. Why? Because their gaze is steady, their movements economical, their silence deliberate. They don't fill gaps, they create them. And gaps create curiosity. Curiosity is the spark that ignites attraction. The greatest seducers, from Cleopatra to Casanova to the modern manipulator, all mastered the same principle. People crave mystery more than perfection. To become magnetic, you must become a riddle, partially revealed, never fully known. That doesn't mean being deceptive. It means being selective. Every word you say should have weight. Every pause should have intention. When you reveal less, people imagine more, and imagination is the most dangerous form of seduction, because it allows others to project their own desires onto you. Let them dream you into their fantasy. Don't destroy it with overexposure. Machiavelli warned rulers, appear merciful, faithful, humane, sincere, and religious, but be prepared to act in the opposite way when necessary. In modern terms, this means mastering duality. To seduce, to influence, to lead, you must be both soft and hard, light and shadow, warmth and distant. Too much sweetness and they won't respect you. Too much coldness and they won't trust you. The art lies in the balance, giving just enough to keep them reaching, but never enough for them to feel secure. Confidence, then, isn't an emotion. It's a posture of mind, the calm acceptance that you are in control of your internal world, regardless of the external one. The man who can walk through rejection without flinching is dangerous. The woman who can be admired yet remain indifferent is untouchable. This is not arrogance. Arrogance is fragile, built on the need to feel superior. True confidence is quiet. It's built on the simple truth that no one can give or take your worth. But to build that, you must destroy something first, your dependence on others for emotional validation. That's the root of all weakness. Every time you look outward for approval, you're silently telling yourself that your inner world isn't enough. The moment you stop doing that, something shifts. You stop performing. You stop exaggerating. You begin to move with calm certainty because you no longer seek confirmation from anyone. And that's when people begin to feel your presence instead of just seeing your image. Seduction begins when you stop trying to impress and start embodying your own value. Power begins when you stop reacting and start observing. You don't chase energy, you redirect it. You don't beg for attention, you command it through presence. Machiavelli understood this in politics, but it applies to psychology, relationships, and every sphere of influence. The one who can remain composed while others lose control is always the master. Here's the mistake most people make. They think confidence means pretending. They fake smiles, fake certainty, fake success. But fakery leaks through the cracks. Real power doesn't need validation. It's self-evident. Like fire, it doesn't need to announce it's burning, you just feel the heat. That's the energy you must cultivate. Not loud, not desperate, not performative, just undeniably certain. And that certainty is born from one question: who am I when everything is taken away? Strip away your titles, your followers, your looks, your possessions. What remains? Most people panic when they face that question because they've built their identity on borrowed pieces. But when you can stand naked before your own soul and feel no fear, you become untouchable. That's where true confidence begins, in self-possession, not self-promotion. Machiavelli might have called it virtue, not virtue as in morality, but the strength of will and character that bends fate to your purpose. He believed fortune favors the bold, but not the reckless, those who act with precision, timing, and understanding of human nature. To seduce is not to manipulate blindly, but to move with strategy, to see 10 moves ahead while others are still reacting to the first. The seductive mind is not emotional, it's observant. You study reactions, tones, patterns. You don't respond impulsively, you calculate. Every interaction becomes a chessboard. When you speak, you measure the effect of your words. When you listen, you read the silences between sentences. You begin to see that people reveal everything when they try to hide. And once you understand what drives them, fear, insecurity, desire, you can move them without ever raising your voice. That's real power, invisible influence. You don't demand attention, you draw it. You don't fight for control, you create the conditions for others to give it to you willingly. Machiavelli taught that people would rather follow the appearance of strength than the reality of weakness. So cultivate the appearance until it becomes real. Dress with intent, speak with precision, move with calm authority. Every detail sends a signal, and the world reads those signals instinctively. Confidence is communication. Every gesture, every silence, every refusal, they all speak louder than words. The key is to make them say what you want without ever saying it directly. That's seduction. That's leadership. That's power. Power begins in perception, yours and theirs. The world doesn't respond to who you are. It responds to who you believe yourself to be. You walk differently when you know you are valuable. You speak slower. You choose your words like currency because you understand their weight. People sense that. They feel the shift in vibration, the quiet steadiness of someone who doesn't need to impress because they've already decided they are enough. That's the foundation of all magnetism, conviction. The conviction that you are not auditioning for anyone's approval. The Machiavellian truth is this: people are drawn not to goodness but to certainty. They will trust a confident liar before they follow an uncertain saint, because in a chaotic world, certainty feels like safety. When you radiate composure, others will seek shelter in your presence. They'll interpret your calmness as competence, your silence as strength, your distance as superiority. And the moment they start interpreting, they start creating stories about you, stories that serve your power. You don't need to control what they think. You only need to create space for them to think it. Most people smother their potential by explaining too much. They overtalk, they justify, they reveal their fears through their need to be understood. But mystery breeds fascination, and fascination breeds loyalty. When you leave things unsaid, others fill in the blanks with imagination, and imagination is always more powerful than truth. Machiavelli would advise, let others interpret your motives, never confirm them. Once they think they've figured you out, they stop obsessing. Uncertainty keeps you alive in their mind. Now let's talk about confidence not as appearance, but as energy, a kind of internal alignment where thought, word, and action move as one. Insecurity feels chaotic because it's fragmented. You think one thing, say another, and do something else entirely. People feel that inconsistency like static electricity. But when you are congruent, when your inner world aligns perfectly with your outer expression, you emit clarity. That clarity is rare. It's what people call charisma, but in truth, it's simply the absence of internal conflict. And here's where the transformation begins. You stop performing. You stop trying to become and start being. The man who walks into a room with this kind of groundedness doesn't need to dominate. He already owns the moment by existing fully within it. He doesn't chase laughter or approval. He speaks when necessary, listens when wise, and moves only when it serves purpose. That kind of restraint drives people insane because in a world addicted to overexposure, control is erotic. Seduction is control disguised as grace. It's not about manipulation, it's about mastery of timing, of self-restraint, of emotion. You learn when to advance and when to withdraw, when to touch and when to disappear. You understand that tension is the true language of desire. Too much attention kills attraction, too little starves it. The art lies in oscillation, the rhythm of presence and absence. That rhythm creates craving. Every powerful seducer knows this instinctively. People don't desire what they already have, they desire what they almost have. You must become that almost. Give glimpses of your attention, then withdraw. Offer warmth, then cool detachment. Create uncertainty, and you create obsession. Machiavelli might have called this strategic cruelty, the ability to deny pleasure just long enough to intensify it. The cruelest thing you can do to someone who craves your validation is to offer silence. Silence is your greatest weapon. Most people can't tolerate it. They rush to fill it with noise, explanations, apologies. But if you can hold it calmly, confidently, the other person will unravel in it. They'll project meanings, assume emotions, reveal secrets. Because silence amplifies whatever they fear or desire most, learn to use that space. When you stop reacting, others reveal themselves completely. Confidence grows not from having everything, but from knowing you can handle losing anything. Most people confuse comfort with confidence, but the two are enemies. Comfort dulls your edge. Confidence is sharpened by exposure, by walking willingly into discomfort until it no longer controls you. When you stop avoiding fear, fear loses its teeth. That's why rejection, failure, loss, these are not enemies, they're training ground. Each one strips away illusion until what remains is unshakable. Machiavelli wrote that fortune favors the bold, not because boldness guarantees success, but because the timid never even enter the game. You cannot seduce the world from a place of hesitation. You must move with deliberate confidence even when uncertainty claws at your throat. The difference between the powerful and the powerless is that one feels no fear, it's that one acts despite it. Here's what most people never realize. Seduction is not about getting someone else to love you. It's about getting them to feel more alive in your presence. If you can awaken emotions, tension, excitement, curiosity, they'll associate you with vitality itself. People don't crave people. They crave the feelings those people make them feel. So learn to become the mirror that reflects their deepest desires. Speak less about yourself and more to their hunger. What do they want to feel? Admired, seen, dominated, safe. Whatever it is, embody it, project it, then withdraw it. Watch how fast they chase what they believe only you can give. And this is where seduction transforms into true power. When you master the psychology of emotion, you no longer compete, you orchestrate. You stop reacting to the world and start directing it. Machiavelli would call this the ruler's mindset, the understanding that control is not maintained through force, but through perception. People must feel that you are inevitable. Once they do, resistance becomes surrender. Now let's go deeper. To become truly powerful, you must understand the architecture of self-control. Most people are slaves to impulse. They react, they seek comfort, they avoid pain. Their emotions control them like strings on a puppet. But imagine what happens when you cut those strings. When anger no longer dictates your tone, when attraction no longer dictates your behavior, when rejection no longer dictates your worth, you become unpredictable. And unpredictability is the most terrifying form of power. The Machiavellian mind operates on a different plane. While others are consumed by feelings, he studies them in himself and in others. He sees every emotion as data, every reaction as a clue. If someone makes him angry, he doesn't lash out, he observes why. If someone flatters him, he notes their intention. This awareness creates distance, and in that distance, control. The ability to pause before acting is what separates leaders from followers, seducers from the seduced. Emotional detachment doesn't mean apathy. It means power through perspective. You still feel everything, but you choose how, when, and whether to express it. That choice is everything. Most people reveal themselves too easily. A raised eyebrow, a trembling voice, a shift in posture. The Machiavellian learns to mask reaction. Not to be fake, but to be unreadable, because the unreadable are untouchable. And when you reach this level, your presence becomes heavy, not oppressive, magnetic. You no longer need validation, persuasion, or confrontation. You speak less, but everything you say lands. You move slower, but everything you do carries weight. The world begins to organize around you, not because you demand it, but because you've become the still point in a spinning wheel. People are drawn to stillness because they crave stability. In chaos, calm is king. That's the essence of unshakable confidence, inner stillness. You no longer rise and fall with the tides of emotion or opinion. You know your value as surely as the sun knows it will rise. From that place, every interaction shifts. You become deliberate where others are impulsive, composed where others are reactive. And that composure, that calm power, becomes the most seductive thing about you. Remember this: seduction, confidence, and power all share one foundation: self-command. You cannot control others until you control yourself. You cannot inspire devotion until you master your emotions. You cannot be truly free until you stop being moved by fear, validation, or desire. That's what Machiavelli understood centuries ago, and what few understand today. Power is not granted, it's cultivated, one controlled impulse at a time. So the next time you walk into a room, don't ask yourself, do they like me? Ask, do I respect myself? Don't ask, how can I make them notice me? Ask, can I remain silent long enough for their curiosity to do the work? Don't seek to convince, seek to command through presence, purpose, and restraint. Because here's the secret. When you stop trying to seduce, you start embodying what everyone is unconsciously drawn to: authority, certainty, and emotional depth. People crave direction. They crave to be led, to be influenced, to feel something beyond the shallow noise of daily life. If you can give them that, even for a moment, they'll follow you willingly, without ever realizing they made the choice. Power without purpose is noise. And yet that's where most people lose themselves, chasing dominance for the sake of ego, attention for the sake of emptiness. True power is not about control over others. It's about control over the currents that move others. It's the art of shaping the invisible: emotion, perception, desire. To the untrained, that sounds manipulative, but Machiavelli knew manipulation is simply the language of influence spoken without guilt. The question isn't whether you manipulate, but whether you understand that everyone already does. Every smile, every silence, every word is an attempt to bend the world to one's will. The difference is the powerful do it consciously. Seduction, confidence, power, they are not external trophy. They are internal disciplines. You do not have them, you are them. When you embody this truth, your presence carries a frequency that others feel before they even process it. It's in your stillness, your gaze, your refusal to explain. It's in the way you stand alone without looking for the crowd's applause. You become both mirror and magnet. People see themselves reflected in you, and they move toward that reflection. Most people live on emotional autopilot, reacting to every stimulus like animals. They want to be loved, so they overgive. They fear rejection, so they overcompensate. They feel insecurity, so they seek attention. Each reaction bleeds power. Machiavelli would call this self-betrayal, the moment you allow your emotions to reveal what others can use against you. Every time you need, you lose. Every time you wait for permission, you shrink. But the one who learns to stand silent in the storm, unbothered, self-contained, becomes something others can't look away from. This stillness isn't natural, it's forged. You earn it through solitude, through boredom, through moments of painful introspection where you face every part of yourself you've tried to avoid. The weak distract themselves, the powerful confront themselves, and in that confrontation they discover something terrifying: the realization that no one is coming to save them. No mentor, no lover, no divine force will give them the peace they seek. Once you accept that, a strange freedom emerges. You stop waiting, you stop hoping, you start creating. To seduce anyone, you must first seduce yourself, not with vanity, but with devotion. You must fall in love with your own discipline, your own stillness, your own hunger for refinement. Confidence isn't a state of mind, it's a commitment. Every morning you wake up and choose not to be ruled by impulse. You train your tone, your body language, your reaction. You speak slower, move deliberately, breathe deeper. You become intentional in everything you do until presence becomes second nature. And then something changes. The world starts treating you differently. Strangers become warmer. Opponents hesitate. Admirers multiply. Not because you've changed who you are, but because you've changed the signal you send. You've stopped broadcasting need and started transmitting command. Machiavelli wrote that appearances shape reality more than truth itself, that people believe what they see long before they understand what is. When you move with composure, you give them a story to believe. That's the essence of seduction, not deception, but direction. You don't force people to feel something, you guide them into feeling it themselves. You provide the rhythm, they fill in the melody. The way you look at them, the pauses you hold, the energy you withhold, these are instruments of emotional influence. The best seducers never rush. They allow silence to do half the work, because silence, when charged with presence, becomes unbearable. Understand this, the truly powerful do not chase love, they inspire it. They do not demand loyalty, they evoke it. They do not beg for admiration, they generate it by existing in alignment with their own authority. That's why confidence and seduction are inseparable. The more grounded you are in your own worth, the more others project their fantasies onto you. You become the blank canvas onto which they paint their deepest desires. You don't even have to try. They do the work for you. Machiavelli warned princes to appear virtuous while remaining strategic. The modern equivalent is this: appear emotionally open while remaining inwardly detached. Let them believe they can reach you, but never let them own you. Connection without control is vulnerability. Control without empathy is tyranny. The balance between the two is power. When you speak, speak with warmth. When you withdraw, withdraw with grace. Make every departure feel like a privilege denied, every return feel like a reward earned. People remember not what you give them, but what you make them feel when they lose you. That's where the real control lies, not in presence, but in absence. Your absence should echo. To build unshakable confidence, you must stop seeking emotional certainty from uncertain people. You must become your own anchor. The world will always test you, insult you, ignore you, tempt you, to see if your composure is real or performative. Most will crumble at the first sign of doubt because their strength was built on external approval. Yours must be built on solitude. Spend enough time alone to know who you are when no one is watching. Only then can you enter the world without fear of losing yourself in it. There's a reason solitude terrifies people. In silence, the illusions start to fade. You hear your own thoughts, your own insecurities, your own emptiness, and most can't bear it. But those who stay, who face that abyss without distraction, emerge reborn. Because beyond fear lies clarity, and beyond clarity lies calm. And calm is the foundation of power. When you become calm, you become unpredictable. You're no longer swayed by flattery or insult. You don't react to provocation. You don't seek revenge when slighted. You simply observe, adapt, and move on with precision. People can't manipulate someone they can't emotionally move. That's why composure is terrifying. It exposes the chaos of others. Machiavelli once said it's better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. But he understood something deeper. Fear is not cruelty. It's control through certainty. When people know you cannot be shaken, they respect you. When they see that you can walk away without resentment, they trust your strength. That's the paradox. The colder you become toward validation, the warmer the world becomes toward you. Let's break the illusion. No one is born confident. Confidence is carved from pain, rejection, failure, and endurance. Every scar is a story of survival. Every heartbreak is a lesson in detachment. Every betrayal is a reminder that loyalty begins within. The most magnetic people aren't those who have never suffered, they're those who have turned suffering into style. They carry their pain elegantly, like armor polished by experience. To seduce, to influence, to lead, you must understand rhythm. Every moment has tempo, words, silences, eye contact, movement. The great seducers don't rush to close distance, they build anticipation. They don't overwhelm with intensity, they balance it with calm. That rhythm creates emotional addiction. It's not about words, it's about pace. The pauses you hold longer than expected. The glances you delay just enough to make someone question your intent. Every gesture becomes psychological choreography. This is why power feels spiritual. Because once you master control over perception, emotion, and timing, you begin to transcend ordinary human behavior. You stop chasing pleasure, you start directing it. You stop craving validation, you start granting it selectively. You become the arbiter of energy, the one who gives and takes attention like a god playing with lightning. But beware, power without empathy corrodes the soul. Seduction without purpose turns into manipulation. Confidence without humility turns into delusion. Machiavelli taught the necessity of balance, that the appearance of mercy, fairness, and wisdom sustains authority better than force alone. You must learn to be both serpent and dove, fierce yet graceful, calculated yet compassionate. This duality is what makes you truly magnetic. People won't know whether to fear you or adore you, and that confusion is the birthplace of devotion. Because here's the ultimate truth. You cannot be powerful if you are predictable. You cannot be seductive if you are transparent. You cannot be confident if your sense of self depends on being understood. Mystery sustains attraction. Detachment sustains power. And presence, true, grounded, silent presence, sustains both. The greatest illusion ever sold is that power is external, that it's something to be won, earned, or given. But the truth is quieter, older, and far more dangerous. Power is withdrawal. It's the choice not to react when every nerve screams to respond. It's the refusal to explain when silence burns deeper than words ever could. It's the calm awareness that you could destroy, but choose not to. That restraint, that deliberate composure, that's where divinity begins to leak through the cracks of your humanity. Seduction, confidence, power, they all collapse into one principle: control of self. When you control yourself, you control perception. When you control perception, you control outcome. The world bends to those who remain emotionally unmoved while everyone else is drowning in feeling. The one who stays centered doesn't need to chase, they simply pull. Because energy flows towards stability, and stability is what every restless soul craves. Most people think power is loud. They confuse aggression for authority, but noise betrays insecurity. True dominance is whisper quiet. It's in the still gaze that makes someone lose their words. It's in the slow, deliberate gesture that says, "I move on my own time." It's in the way you stand unflinching in the face of chaos, as if you've already seen how the story ends. That's why the Machiavellian doesn't rush. They already know speed belongs to the desperate. Here's what no one tells you. Seduction is not the art of making others want you. It's the discipline of making them need to understand you. And they never will. Because what they're chasing isn't you. It's the way they feel in your orbit. Your calm becomes their chaos. Your mystery becomes their obsession. The moment you realize this, you stop performing and start orchestrating. You stop being reactive energy and become gravitational pull. Confidence isn't a thought, it's a vibration. It's how you occupy space. You can feel it in those who don't flinch, don't fill silence, don't over-explain. The room bends subtly toward them. Every word carries weight because none are wasted. That's the energy of someone who has seen themselves at their weakest and no longer fears it. Someone who has walked through rejection, failure, humiliation, and came out clean, still composed, still calm. Once you've survived exposure, nothing external can shake you. That's why Machiavelli taught that fortune yields to those who act, not those who wait for permission. Life is not a debate to be won. It's a theater to be directed. Every person you meet is an actor auditioning for a role in your story. Some bring chaos disguised as passion. Others bring comfort disguised as loyalty. The wise don't cast out of emotion. They observe, they test, they reward strategically. To rule your world, you must know who deserves proximity and who only deserves your silence. There will be moments when your restraint is mistaken for weakness. Let them think that. Let them underestimate you. Machiavelli would smile at that ignorance because underestimation is armor. The greatest victories are won by those who let the enemy believe they've already won. Your power multiplies when you no longer need to prove it. You walk away while others still argue for validation. You remain calm while they expose their desperation. Eventually, everyone reveals themselves. Impatience makes sure of it. And as you evolve, you begin to see that seduction is everywhere. It's not limited to romance or attraction. It's the undercurrent of persuasion in every human interaction. The employer seduces with opportunity. The politician seduces with promise. The brand seduces with belonging. The weak use seduction unconsciously. The powerful use it intentionally. They shape emotion like clay. They understand that whoever controls attention controls reality. Attention is today's throne, and the way to sit on it is not by shouting louder, but by speaking less. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes sacred. The fewer words you use, the more valuable they become. The less available you are, the more people desire access. Distance is leverage. Absence is strategy. If presence commands respect, absence commands worship. So learn to disappear, not out of fear, but as demonstration. The ability to withdraw your attention is the purest form of dominance. The Machiavellian doesn't chase closure, doesn't beg for understanding. They exit elegantly, leaving behind curiosity, confusion, and quiet obsession. Let them feel your absence like oxygen suddenly removed from the air. Because when people finally understand your value, it should be too late for them to have it. Confidence deepens when you master solitude. Solitude is the forge where noise burns away and identity solidifies. You'll feel the withdrawal symptoms of validation, the craving for approval, the ache of isolation. Stay with it. Let the discomfort burn until it refines you. The loneliness you fear is just the shedding of dependency. And once you emerge, you'll realize you were never alone. You were just crowded by versions of yourself that no longer served your power. Power, real power, isn't about control over others, it's about freedom from them. The freedom to act without permission, to love without attachment, to give without expectation, to walk away without resentment. The world belongs to those who can hold both fire and ice in their hands, passion without desperation, compassion without weakness. That balance makes you untouchable. Machiavelli wrote for princes, but his words were never about thrones, they were about temperament, about cultivating the kind of inner monarchy that can't be overthrown. When you master your own mind, you rule silently over everything around you. You become your own fortress, desired, respected, and feared all at once. And this is the final transformation, to stop needing the world to reflect your worth and start using the world as a mirror for your will. Every interaction becomes an experiment in energy. Every reaction becomes feedback. You begin to play with reality itself, speaking less, observing more, adjusting quietly until outcomes align with intention. That's the Machiavellian ideal. Influence without effort, control without chaos, power without noise. But here's the paradox that crowns it all. The moment you no longer seek to seduce, you become irresistible. The moment you no longer need confidence, you embody it. The moment you stop chasing power, it settles around you like an aura, because what you were seeking outside was never missing. It was only scattered, buried beneath fear, distraction, and the opinions of others. When you withdraw those projections, your power returns home. Stand in that. Move from that. Let your silence speak louder than their need for validation. Let your detachment unsettle those addicted to attention. Let your calm remind them how chaotic they are. That's how you rule without raising your voice, how you lead without begging to be followed. People will call it arrogance. Let them. Arrogance is just confidence without apology. And when you finally understand this, when the game no longer plays you, you begin to see through the illusion of status, attraction, and competition. You see that everyone is performing, hiding, posturing, pretending. You, however, have stepped outside the script. You write your own lines now. You decide who gets to see your softness and who only meets your silence. You decide which battles deserve your energy and which deserve your indifference. That's not cruelty, that's clarity. The seducer moves with rhythm. The confident move with certainty. The powerful move with purpose. And all three move with one shared understanding. Nothing external defines them anymore. They've become self-sufficient organisms of intent, calm, deliberate, and slightly dangerous. That's the Machiavellian secret. Power isn't the crown on your head, it's the stillness behind your eyes. So when you walk into the world tomorrow, don't announce yourself. Don't declare your worth. Don't seek permission. Just be. Move with the quiet confidence of someone who could vanish at any moment and be perfectly fine. Look people in the eye long enough for them to feel the weight of their own performance. Speak with restraint. Let your pauses hang heavy. Make them wonder what you're thinking, even when you're not thinking of them at all. And when they ask what changed, why the same person suddenly feels untouchable, you'll know the answer. Nothing changed. You just stopped leaking power. You stopped explaining. You stopped chasing. You remembered who you were before the world told you who to be. That's how you seduce anyone, by no longer needing to. That's how you build unshakable confidence, by no longer questioning it. That's how you become truly powerful, by no longer giving away your energy to anything that cannot match it. The throne isn't out there. It's the calm inside you that never wavered. And once you sit on it, silently, patiently, immovably, the world will kneel without ever being asked.